I I was thinking about, so I live in Boston, what Boston would be like if everyone had equal access to civic skills and leadership, including, historically marginalized students. And um, I think it would necessarily be radically different. I actually talked at the end of No Citizen Left Behind about one of my students. I was at the time teaching 8th grade in the Boston Public Schools, how my students saw a large park in our city, Franklin Park. He lived on one side of it in Dorchester, and I live on the other side of it in Jamaica Plain. And our perceptions of the park and our perspectives were just very, very different, because his experiences of parks was of them as actually fairly dangerous places, physically dangerous. And my experience of parks was not, and is not. It's a place that I could take my then young kids and walk our dog, and it's a very welcoming place. And as I thought about what it would mean for his perspective on parks to be heard and recognized, it would mean that we would radically rethink our design of parks, our how we think about access, what kinds of programming we would offer, et cetera. And changing parks is changing the very fabric of our community. It's about creating spaces, ideally, where people can come together across lines of difference, where we can actually, co-occupy spaces where we're so often segregated because of, say, the history of redlining, et cetera. It's about the reimagining what environmental justice looks like, right? Reimagining spaces for work, for play, what it means actually to be sort of treated as a human being in a city who deserves a space to breathe and clean air to breathe, and so forth. And so I think, if everyone in Boston had equal access to civic skills and to civic leadership, what problems we dealt with, like what we identified as being problems, would really radically change. What our universe of potential solutions would also really change, right? So young people led a walkout from the Boston Public Schools a few years ago about the budget for the schools, and their perspectives about living it on the ground, about where the money was going and where they didn't see money going and what they needed, right? They were derided by some adults as being pawns of the teachers unions or whatever, right? Like as young people so often are. But they, or well, they just wanted to walk out of school. But no, they really want more opportunities to learn. They recognize what it means to be treated as second-class citizens, or as half citizens or whatever, right? They know, because they can feel it, and they desperately want greater educational opportunities. And so I think we would focus on different problems, have different universes of solutions open to us, and actually have a much stronger and more thriving and vibrant community as a result.